Welcome to another episode of The Practical Metaphysical Journey, the place where practical meets the paranormal, the mundane meets the metaphysical, and the spiritual meets the spooky. A place where we share the experiences of our journeys here on Earth. We encourage you to listen and see what resonates, because we're all different yet the same. We invite you to take a break with us, so unpack and stay a while. We're glad you stopped by for a visit. Welcome, everybody, for another episode of the Practical Metaphysical Journey. I'm again joined by my two friends, Deb and Lisa, and my name is David. If you haven't listened to any of other episodes at this point, those are the three of us that have been doing these podcasts, and the idea being that we're covering just a variety of different topics that may be of interest and talking about our experiences with the things that we talk about. Today we're going to be talking about crystals. And the title that I put on here is Precious Metaphysical Tools or Just Some Pretty Rocks. Because I'm sure some people look at them and they're just pretty rocks, and other people do like to use them. They use them in their practices and feel that there's a variety of ways that you can use them. So we're going to talk about that today as we go through. And as I normally do, I looked up some definitions just so we can kind of set the foundation of, when we use maybe some of the different terminology, what are we referring to? So if I look up the word crystal in Wikipedia, the definition that I get from that is a solid material whose constituent atoms, molecules, or ions are arranged in an ordered pattern extending in all three spatial dimensions. It sounds really fancy. To me, I kind of like that because when I think of crystals, what amazes me about them is thinking about how everything had to come together in just a certain way in order to create that crystal. Certain metals and minerals and pressure and heat and time and all of that to create those. I just think that is just amazing. I also looked up gemstone. And it says a gemstone is a piece of mineral crystal which, when cut or polished, is used to make jewelry or other adornments. Certain rocks, such as lapis lazuli, opal, and obsidian, and occasionally organic materials that are not minerals, such as amber, jet, and pearl, may be used for jewelry and are therefore often considered to be gemstones as well. That also comes off of Wikipedia. And not that it really matters. We can call things whatever we want, and I think we'll get it. And then I also looked up rock, just like basic. Are we talking about rocks? This also comes off of Wikipedia. In geology, rock or stone is any naturally occurring solid mass or aggregate of minerals or mineraloid matter. It is categorized by the minerals included, its chemical composition, and the way in which it was formed. So, crystals, gemstones, rocks, it's all the same to me in working with that. So, thinking of that, one of the things that I first wanted to ask you to talk through, do you use crystals? Do you work with them? And how do you use them? When do you use them in either your practice or just personal life, that type of thing? So, Lisa or Deb?
I would say both. I have a practice and I do use them during sessions, but I love to have them just in the space. So I call some my working rocks, and I have the other ones are just around in the space. They're beautiful. They add beauty to the space. But I also know they're carrying certain frequency signatures that add a nice, I'll call it a dimension, but it's a nice, just a nice calming frequency to the room. And then at home I have the same thing. As a matter of fact, I have a whole new little batch of stones on my desk now because I kind of cleaned everything out and was, kind of starting fresh. And then that little corner was just calling to me, so now I have a whole bunch new
Nice
stones on my desk at home. So
Yeah, I think it's kind of cool because literally the earth is all of the above: rock, stone, mineral, gem, everything. It's amazing. But for many, many years ago, I started to get into crystals and things and knew all the basics, the rose quartz and the quartz and some other ones, bits and pieces here and there. And then for the longest time, I did nothing with them, nothing. I used to use them sometimes when I did my massage work, but then I just kind of got away from it over the years. But I've had an uptick in interest I'm just going to straight up call it an obsession now, with working with them again. And it's interesting because for the longest time, I just was like, no, I don't feel anything. Crystals aren't vibing with me. Don't care, don't need them. Whatever, I'll leave that for the people that do. And then all of a sudden, I have noticed a difference when I'm wearing them, using them, being called to them, seeking them out, and it's really kind of interesting. I'm trying to figure out where to go with all this, and I've got some ideas, but I am using them more and more, and I find that they help me in the workplace as far as calming and keeping certain situations under control. I absolutely notice a difference in myself. And I'm noticing it more now with the cats and dogs in the house and with Jody, my husband. He's all of a sudden become very, very attuned to things and the energy. So not sure what all is going on with it all, but if we're all feeling it like that and being called to it, there's got to be a reason. So, and the different properties are really standing out with them. So, whereas before I would have said, well, if a stone is pink, that means love, it means compassion, blah, blah, blah. Well, they don't always. They've got the different properties with them, and the sensitivity to them has gotten a lot more intense for all of us, which is kind of cool.
Interesting. Yeah, I would say for me, I probably lean more towards their pretty rocks before I would think about them in a metaphysical stance. Although I do use them occasionally. So, one of the stones we'll be talking about a little bit later that I have worked with is lava rock. And in that case, when I wanted to set up a boundary around my house for some protection, I put 4 lava rocks in the 4 corners of the property. So, yeah, I use them. I do feel some things off of some of them. I like to look at them, when I see them, to me, they start to work or they have some effect when it's using your intention with that rock. So it's like a reminder. Mm-hmm. If I carry a particular stone with me, it's usually because there's an intention to it. It's like my reminder to stay calm, or to do this, or to think that way. So for me, that's where I use them more.
One of the things I think is really interesting too, because as you've been going along and choosing different rocks and stuff like that, and now that I'm more into looking at the metaphysical meanings behind them and spiritual meanings, it's so funny to see how things are lining up with you. It's crazy with the lava rock and the transformation and new beginnings at your new house, which you were intuitively guided to use, and with some of the others that you've chosen, the specimens that you've got, and how they line up. The great agate, which is great for mediums and psychics and spirit work, and that, and the malachite, a lot of earth stones to it, but I mean that's got some really magical properties to it when you look into that, and it's just seeing what you're guided to. And Lisa, you've got all the earth, you got all the rocks, you've got everything. But it's really interesting because you use the crystal grids intuitively, and it lines up before people even come here to meditate that night. It's like, oh wow, I was thinking about that, or I was thinking about that. Which it's funny, were we all picking up on that as you were putting that intention out there? Or were you receiving the intention, or what's going on? Nothing we can prove probably, but it's just fascinating.
It's fun to play with, that's for sure. I was just thinking about that when we were talking about the properties or the metaphysical, properties. You can always Google that and or look that up online. And I have found, there's crystal courses you can take. We were talking about that earlier. There's so much information out there, but I feel like just along my journey, I've become more of a not so much an absolutist on that.
Right.
It's more about, what do I need the stone for? What is the person? Now, maybe there is something. If I really looked into it, maybe there's a reason I chose that stone. But I like to just go to my little working stone counter there.
Right.
And it'll be like, what stone needs to come out in this session for, this person? And I will just be guided to a stone. Now, to be honest with you, now that I have what I have, I can't even remember what the metaphysical properties are of each one, and I don't think I need to.
Right.
It's whatever that is, And I try not to get too hung up on like the chakra colors and being absolutist with that.
Yeah.
Because, a green stone may want to go with the root, or, some other color may want to go with the crown. I think it's really important, like you're saying, like we're at a different time now, where people really need to tap into what their intuition is and how it speaks to them.
Yeah.
And the stones, I would say, I'm not going to say forgiving, I just think they can do anything we want because of the intentions that we put out there. If it's for somebody's highest and best,
Right.
It
could be whatever. Yeah.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely. I love doing the research part about it. I
know.
love to dive into that stuff. And it's just so funny. Like the stones that I pick, or that I have, I don't choose according to the meaning, and I kind of go back later and say, "Ooh, look what I did!" And it matches up with whatever I had going on. Now, there are some that I will be like, "Oh, I need a stone for protection," and just whatever comes to mind. It's like, okay, like for work and work circumstances and all. That's great, but yeah, it's really interesting to see what people choose. I like to go back and see, ooh, what was going on with them or whatever, and it does. It falls into line so much, but yeah. I think the other thing about the stones too is that they absolutely have an energy. They've got their physical characteristics that make up specific things, depending on what they're made of. And it's funny, they carry their own vibration, and depending on how people vibe to things, it's interesting to see how it attracts them or works with them. Stone that may work great for me, that means love and compassion, to somebody else it's like, ugh, I hate that.
There's some stones I can't hold.
Oh, same here.
Like it literally hurts.
Yes.
To hold them, and then somebody else will pick it up like, oh, I love. They put it to their chest. They're like, oh, I love this thing. I'm like,
yeah.
Evidently, I bought that for you.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I want to go back to something you had said, Lisa, in using your intuition, so you don't necessarily remember what the properties are of the stones. It's what you're drawn to and what your intuition is telling you. I think part of in that journey in learning if you're going to use them is to also trust your intuition.
Yeah.
If I look at that particular stone and that's supposed to be love and harmony, but you're feeling it for some other reason, trust that.
Yeah.
There's most likely a reason why you're feeling that way with that particular stone. And that's kind of why I was saying, for me, it's that, the intention that you put into why you're using that particular stone. And I look at them as tools.
Yeah.
So if I look at a hammer on its own is not going to do anything.
Right.
I have to use the hammer to build or to take apart or whatever. And I think I look at stones the same way. That I can use any stone I want. It's how I'm using it that's really the important part.
I agree. You were talking about the crystal grids. I forgot you had said that. I went off on a tangent when you said that. I do think that's interesting because I don't come here with a specific thing in mind, although I might get pinged early in the day on like, oh, I think we need to do this tonight or whatever. But it is interesting that like the stones start to speak to you. And I do think it's just part of, them knowing that, hey, it's meditation night, like, hey, and whatever they, like you're saying, they already know who's going to be there. To just let my mind think about that. I'm like, you know what, that is pretty cool. I should, I mean, I appreciate it when it happens, but for you to bring that up, I'm like, you know what, that is really awesome.
Yeah, it just seems like there's always somebody that it resonates with, and it may not resonate with, like for me for the longest time, I'm like, oh yeah, okay, it's pretty, I like the layout, but I wasn't feeling anything necessarily from it, but there's always somebody who does. So oh, I like this. Oh, I want to sit near, or I want to sit near the blue stone,
Yeah.
the big chunk of
Yeah.
wax,
That's
for
true.
whatever reason. Or, oh, I want to sit over here. And it's funny because they won't move the stones in your grid; they'll move their seat.
Right, right.
So all of a sudden, it's like, oh, well, the blue one's over there, but this person never sits over there, and for some reason, they're drawn to do that. Then.
Yeah.
So it's really kind
Now
of
I'm
cool.
going to pay even more attention.
See, they're going to start speaking more. Or like when somebody needs to be more grounded. For instance, in this room, you've got a huge, ginormous chunk of petrified wood in that corner. That's a very grounded corner of this room, and it's funny to see who goes and sits there and who needs grounding. Lately, it's been me, I guess. But I feel that with myself. I've been very buzzy energetically and whatnot. So, and I got a piece of petrified wood with me today. Kind of toned me down a little bit. So.
Yeah, I was in a crystal store in St. Augustine years ago. It's no longer there, and I'm checking out. I had a couple of things, and the guy at the register says, "Did you see the petrified wood, in the other room?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I saw." He says, "Go grab a piece," and I did. I came out with one, expecting to pay for it, but
Yeah.
and he says, "No, that's on the house. I felt you needed something to ground you."
Nice.
And so I
Nice.
was gifted that piece
That's really cool.
of petrified wood. And it was interesting, that same piece of petrified wood, when we went and worked with somebody at their house, I felt they needed it. So I was, if for some reason
Yeah.
that stone, I was just the temporary guardian
Yeah.
of it.
You were
And
the
it was, it's okay,
Lead.
its next stop is with you.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And who knows where it's going from there.
I've
It
done
is
that too.
Kind
I've
of
done
cool because I'm kind of seeing them as problem solvers and additions. I can see how, ancient peoples used these in medicines. They knew the vibrations and were a little bit more in tune to the earth than maybe we are now. And it's funny because I'll be like, oh, I need this in my life right now. And I'll have that for a while. And then it's like, no. All of a sudden, there's no connection to that stone at all. So it either needs to find a new home or go live somewhere quietly until for some reason it comes back. But it's really interesting. And I've been experimenting using Jody, my husband, as my guinea pig. And I'll be like, hey, hold this, see what you get from it. Or touch this and see what you get from it. And it's really funny to see his reactions. They're so different from mine. And he's got some rocks that are pretty much kryptonite to him that he can, or minerals or whatever, he cannot absolutely touch. And it's really funny because all these ones that are very high spiritual connecting for me are just a kiss of death to him. He does not want those. But it's funny, it's brought back some memories for him. Yesterday we were at a mineral and gem show, and it brought back some memories of years ago when he learned Qigong, Tai Chi, all these other different modalities. He suddenly connected back up to that, and it started bringing those energies. And he said that for the specific modality he was using, the grounding spot was general from the solar plexus down, because you had to be connected to move your body and do your fighting or your exercises from that point. You weren't coming from the head. You had to stay grounded and sweep the leg or do whatever they were doing. So it's really interesting. Those are the ones that are calling him back now and vibrating with him. It's really cool.
I will say, like, when I bought the one that hurt my hand, I still had to buy it. There was some reason why I was like, oh, I can't hold this, but I had to buy it. And I put it in my office on, like, a shelf where everybody could see it. And it sat there for the longest time till this one person came in for a session. And when they got done, they were just kind of sitting there, and I saw them kind of just kind of sitting there, and they looked and they saw that, and they were like, oh, what is this? And they went over and picked it up, and they were like, oh my gosh, this is so beautiful. And they were just loving on it. I was like, just like you, David, I went, oh, it was for them.
Yeah.
I knew I had to buy it, and I'm like, but it hurts my hand. I cannot touch it. And that person, I just said, you know what? It's yours.
Yeah.
And they were so excited.
I think that's so fun.
Isn't that great?
Yeah, it's wonderful how that works out without a plan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Trust the plan.
Trust the plan.
Trust the
because
plan,
there is a
even.
plan. There is a plan. Yes, exactly.
Well, and if you think about it, they come from the earth. We don't own the earth.
Mm-mm.
We're just temporary holders of these pieces. So if it needs another home, off it goes to the next home. So we're talking about these different crystals that we use and what we're drawn to. Let's get into some specifics. So if you had to choose 3, like what are your
Only
favorite?
3?
Yeah, only 3.
Can't be done.
Yeah, we're in Lisa's office, and if you ever have a chance to be here, there's one wall where it's all crystals, and it's pretty amazing. But otherwise we would be here for quite a long time if we talk about every crystal that we like. So choose 3. So what are your 3 and why do you like those 3?
You want to go first?
Go ahead.
Okay, well, I went very practical on this because, like you said, I could be like here all day picking my favorites and all the different things. So I went very practical as far as my working crystals. I went more for like what I help other people when they come for sessions. It comes out a lot, and then I recommend these to people as kind of their starter kit, so to say. So the first one is black tourmaline, and I like it because it absorbs any kind of, we'll call it negative energies or just unwanted energies, and it transmutes that. And you can, run it underwater if you feel like it, but it's not a stone that you necessarily even need to clean, which we'll talk more about, in a little bit. So you can use it for protection and for, energetic cleansing in a space or for you. Wherever you put it, it's there to absorb anything that might not be for your highest and best. The next one is clear quartz, and I like clear quartz because it amplifies. It amplifies the energy of another stone you put with it, or if you yourself need some energy, it's a good stone to just have to kind of boost your own energy. And then the third one I chose was selenite. There are different colors of selenite. I use a lot of white selenite. I put sticks of it on the table before the client gets there to kind of cleanse it from anybody else's energy that was there before, and then I use it during session. I do use it more of like a booster, kind of like the clear quartz, but there's something about selenite that really like cleans the aura really nice. It helps boost the energy. Usually when I put it around people, you just can see they just kind of, they take like sighs and they just feel like there's something happening there. So those are my 3. Those are my top 3 for today. If we do another another podcast,
Check me in an hour.
Yeah, check me. I'll choose something else. But those are my top 3 for today.
Cool. Yeah, the selenite, I remember going to a gem show about 5-6 years ago, and somebody had this humongous piece of selenite, like coffee table large.
Wow.
And it was fishtail selenite.
Oh, yeah.
So the way it formed, they look like fishtails.
Uh-huh.
And I don't have a picture of it. Maybe I'll try to find one and put it on the podcast. But if people search on the internet, fishtail selenite, I just stood next to that thing for a little while because I did the same thing. The sigh of relief, just let it all go.
Yeah.
And I loved that piece, but there was no way I could get it home.
Right.
That piece was beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
I forgot to say with the selenite, what I like about it is it doesn't need cleaned either. It's always a self-cleaner of its own. And it's very fragile, so you never want to put it in water. Mm-hmm. But you can use it to clear other stones. So I have slabs of selenite, little selenite slabs that I put my other stones on after a session to help cleanse them. And I have, selenite all around with the other working stones just to kind of keep that space clean on its own. So that's another reason why I love the white selenite, is it's a self-cleaner.
What's really cool is that the selenite and the black tourmaline together are supposed to be, they're considered in metaphysical research and whatnot to be one of the best healers. because it's
Together.
grounding and enlightening at the same
Like
time.
the yin and the
cleansing.
yang.
They love each other.
Black and the
They're
white.
friends.
Yeah.
They're friends.
They're friends.
Yeah, they're
besties.
friends.
Yeah.
And it's funny because my husband hates selenite. He can't be around it. I think it's like me with moldavite. I can't do moldavite. I shoot right to another planet. And moldavite is a meteorite. So yeah, and apparently Jody does not need that kind of energy at this point. Tomorrow you might. You never know. I think it changes up. My 3 stones. One of my absolute favorites is the Caribbean blue calcite, and it is made up of blue calcite along with brown and white aragonite. And so these minerals together, it literally looks like the seashore. There are generally stripes of brown and white, so it looks like the sand, and then the beautiful blues, it looks like the Caribbean. And it's a fairly new stone. Nobody really knows. They're starting to attribute meanings to it, but it's really cool because you can kind of come up with your own. They just found it in 2019 in Pakistan. So, and it's fairly new, and they're expecting that, since that seems to be the only place that it's being mined right now, it's selling like crazy all over the place for a variety of prices in a lot of different forms, and they do expect that they are going to mine it out. So at some point it will be a lot expensive. So get it now, gang. But it's beautiful. I have heart-shaped pieces that I absolutely love. And looking at those, to me, it's peaceful. I can kind of feel an ebb and flow of the tide. It just reminds me of the beach. And it brings great harmony to me. And it kind of brings out that watery flow, which is nice. So it really puts me at the seashore, that nice deep breath that you can take and just relax. So that is a huge favorite of mine. And then the other stone I've been using a lot of is rose quartz. And rose quartz is supposed to be the ultimate pure love stone and compassion. And I think a lot of different circumstances in my life brought me to this point. It helps dispel anger and resentment, and it can be almost purpley sometimes. There's all different shades of rose quartz, very light and then darker and raw pieces and carved pieces and whatnot. And for me, it's very settling, and it is grounding for me. I've got some pieces I'm planning on putting out in the yard now and just kind of making that ours and our grid and bringing in the love and the peace there in what can be a turbulent neighborhood. But the other mineral I've been using a lot is hematite, and it's just a black stone. It can be red as well, which is supposed to be very grounding, and it is for me. And I think one of the reasons it feels grounding is because of where I grew up in upstate New York. They had hematite mines, and it's got an iron ore base to it. Sometimes it can be magnetic, and I think for some reason, because it was so prevalent at home, it pulls me home. And they used to have hematite mines there, and they would mine the red hematite and use it for paint, especially for red paint for barns and things like that. And it was just kind of cool. I mean, you could kick around and find hematite in any riverbed or creek bed or anything. I didn't know what it was at the time and never thought twice about it. And when I use the 3 of these things together, it creates a really nice experience for me. It's just and I've been wearing them to kind of help ground me through difficult work situations and annoying people and whatnot. That combination has seemed to work pretty well for me. So those are mine at the moment until 10 minutes from now when I can tell you others.
Yeah.
We only have so much time.
We're saying that jokingly, but you also have to remember we're evolving. We learn things. We find strengths or things about us that we didn't know before. So why wouldn't you change what you consider as favorite?
I got about 20 gems on me right now, all different. So
She's covered.
I am covered.
For any potential
I have gained
scenario.
30 pounds in the gems I'm wearing, which you probably hear in the background. I should have taken them off. Jingling and jangling here. I've even got them around my water bottle to help kind of infuse the water with the properties that I need.
That's a good idea.
I have a cover for my water bottle, and I've got a piece of tumbled selenite in there for purifying it, and I've got various other things. I get the little bracelets, little stretch band bracelets, and I'm putting them around my bottle.
That's a great idea.
Interesting. So the three that I had picked, the first one is malachite, which is green. And for those of you listening, at this point you'll probably figure out because we've talked about the other crystals. I'm going to put up pictures of the crystals that we're talking about as we talk about them so that you can see what they look like. But malachite, it's one of those for me where I go back to, I kind of look at them and say, ooh, they're pretty. It's just the richness in the green color that drew me to that chunk of malachite that I have. And the fact that it forms two different ways. So it's like smooth little bubbles, another part it's all jagged and so forth. So I just fascinated by looking at that. It is a copper base, which is another thing I thought is interesting, and maybe I need to look into it more, is copper, because I have another stone that I was drawn to, which is more of a bluish green. Malachite's a very deep green, and the other one, I can't remember the name of it, but it's also copper based. So these two stones that I was just drawn to based on color alone are both copper based. So there's probably something
I wonder
there.
if it's azurite.
It's not. It starts with a C. I'd have to look it
Okay.
up. But so malachite's one of them. The other one is lapis lazuli, which is blue. Reason I picked that is I tend to use that one as something to fidget with in my hands when I do a reading. I just have found that I need something to occupy kind of my mind and fidget with when I'm doing a reading. So the lapis, and plus blue is supposed to signify your throat chakra and what you need to say. And sometimes when you're doing readings, you're trying to figure out, like, do I say this or not? So I tend to fidget with that, and it's just the right size that it fits in my hands, and it's large enough that I can kind of fiddle with it as I work with it. And the other one is lava rock, which I had mentioned earlier, in that I use that if I'm trying to set up a boundary, especially on a property. So as I said before, I put 4 lava rocks in the 4 corners of my property, and I did it thinking that lava, just the fire and the energy that went into creating a lava rock, is use that energy, that fire, that fierceness in putting up the protection for the property.
It literally creates new worlds.
Yes.
Yeah.
It goes from flowing in a liquidish form to creating islands and land, and I think that's so cool.
You say that, and I just thought about a lot of landscapers use lava rock for the beds around houses that would create a natural barrier.
That was part 1 of our episode on crystals. Check back in 2 weeks for the follow-up part 2. Thank you.